I forgot about that thing that she was hungry all the time to the point where we were speculating she had a tapeworm.
Because they kept the main cast member, New York City, baby.
At the grocery store, she's taking like pots of Greek yogurt and taking selfies with them.
If anyone else said something like this, I'd be like, what is wrong with them and what is wrong with production for allowing it?
Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter, joined as always by Fergie Ferg, Dylan Ferguson. And today we are pleased to be joined by the brains behind the Bravo Enthusiasts Instagram account.
If people can't handle the truth, it's really not my problem.
Really good. That's 2 weeks in a row we've had Ramona Singer taglines. So getting real representation for the Ramona coaster. We're talking about Real Housewives of New York, the premiere of season 15, as well as Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. We got two fantastic episodes. Let's dive right in. Let's get into the Real Housewives of New York. Before we do that, we're going to talk about the taglines because we got episode 1 taglines, which is a surprise. Usually we have to wait like 3 weeks lately. They embedded them into the show, so I'm sure you both know whose is whose. So we won't be able to guess them, but let's give them ratings. Let's start with why date their dad when you can just be mother. Catherine, what do you think about this one?
I am not a fan. I don't think you should be able to call yourself mother. Other people call you mother. Like if you think about like if you just think about people that are referred to as mother, they don't ever say like I'm mother, you know? It's not a mother thing to do to call yourself mother.
Dylan, what do you think?
Interesting read. I mean, I do like that she's calling back to her instantly iconic tagline from the previous season, right? Make me mad, I'll date your dad. So it's kind of fun that she realized she couldn't top that, so she's just gonna riff on it instead and do like a part 2 to it. I don't think it's as good as the one from the previous season. It's not as like snort funny. It's the transition from using like dad as like an actual person that you're gonna sleep with to using mother as like slang is not a very satisfying way to conclude it. So for me, it's like I'll give it like B- because I like having like continuity between one season and the next and having one tagline that references the previous season's tagline, but I don't think it's great.
You know, I like this one. I think it's, you know, I think it's a B+. You're right. It's not as good as her A+ tagline from last season. But I do like that she is like laying into this trope. This like she's crafting a new niche of tagline or a new trope within the tagline, the dad dating. It's so it's unlike anything else that we have heard in a tagline, and for that to be repeated, you know, like Giselle Bryant used like word on the street 3 years in a row, and Kyle has always
been
had
in Beverly
something
Hills.
In Beverly Hills. Yeah, exactly. So having like dad dating be this like running thread, I really enjoy that.
Yeah, me too.
In The Cocktail of Life, a New Yorker is never shaken nor stirred. This is Erin's. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
Don't like it very much. Erin's whole like I'm a New Yorker as like the only thing that she can attach to her personality is lame. In the like the James Bond reference is so dated. It's not very good. It's a very basic pun that could like be used about anybody, about anything. I don't like it. This is like C- for me.
Catherine, what about you?
I at first didn't get it. Like I get the whole meaning, but I didn't get why she said it. Is it because of her mezcal brand? Because I would say like at least with Brynn's, like it was, you know, you knew where it came from. Like that was her tagline in season 1.
Dating brand.
Yeah, and like it was her whole shtick too. Like not just the tagline, but I feel like she doesn't talk about cocktail making. She's not in the bar. You know, I just didn't get where I just think where it's coming from.
The fact that Abe is such a great bartender, such an amazing mixologist, who definitely knows the difference between olives and cherries.
Yeah, so I think I think I would give it maybe like C minus. I also didn't get it because like shaken, not nor stirred. Like you have to be one. Like how's it a cocktail?
yeah, you're right. The pun doesn't really hold up on like
she's just drinking
basis.
She's just like drinking juice now.
You know, there's so much about this that is not working that it almost endears itself to me. Like, it could have been in the martini of life, and that would have led better into the, like, never shaken nor stirred. Like, that would have tied it to bond a bit better. Like you said, there's so much that just like doesn't work about this. I almost want to rate it highly because of that. She took a swing and it missed, but I like a swing, so I'm gonna give this a C plus. Okay, now we've got just like a painting. You'll need a couple looks to figure me out. Catherine, what do you think about this one?
Wait, who is this again?
Okay, this is Racquel, the new housewife.
Okay, right.
So when I had first heard it, I didn't know anything about this woman. So it was a little confusing, but knowing now she's like very highly respected and high up in the art world, it makes sense. I don't know if I could give it a rating though. I kind of need to get to know her better. Because it's like you need to take two looks at me or whatever. We don't know anything about her. Like she could start off strong and then become so unforgettable.
We need a couple looks.
Or exactly. Or she could come back and be like so forgettable. So I guess I'll give it a C, like middle ground. I just have to see where the season goes.
Yeah, Dylan, how about you?
Yeah, I don't love it. I feel like the principle of taglines is to be like all confidence, all direct, all like I'm summing myself up in one phrase, to be like, you don't really know who I am. It's not clear. As like a newbie is just not doing the trick for me. It's just not doing the thing. Like it's just like check it later. Maybe eventually you'll know what I'm about. No, you're supposed to tell me in one sentence. That's the point. That's the game we're playing. So this is a C minus for me.
Yeah, I don't love this either. Also, like just like a painting, you need a couple looks to figure me out. Is that like do you always need a couple looks to figure out what a painting is about? I feel like you could have really refined that a bit more. Like she could have talked about how I get more nuance the deeper you look or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, this is probably about a D for me.
Yeah,
I think also too, like she's just like basically, I don't know. It almost feels like she's saying like, you need a couple of looks at me. Like I'm not as how I present. So it's like, do you change with each interaction? Like, do you come off one way, but you really think you're a different way? Like it almost kind of makes it seem like she doesn't know who she is. And it's like up to us to help her figure it out.
Yeah.
I may be hungry, but at least I'm not thirsty.
This
Dylan,
was Psy, right?
Think?
Was it Psy?
Oh yeah. Big time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so simple. It's so simple. It's very bare bones. It kind of works. It does the thing. It could use something personalized to it. It doesn't feel like this is specific to Psy. Like anybody could say that. It's fine.
Oh, but last season a big thing was that she was always complaining about there not being food.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you are right.
I
forgot about that thing that she was hungry all the time to the point where we were speculating she had a tapeworm. That was I had forgotten about that. So that makes it personalized. You're right. There's something to be said for its simplicity, actually. So this is like B plus. It's sort of A tier because it is like just like one straightforward phrase without like much flourish to it, without like unexpected wordplay or anything. But yeah, there's something personalized about it, and there's something about it just being like snappy and direct. So it works for me, sure.
What about you, Catherine?
I kind of agree. I do like when the taglines like reference something about them, and since they only had one season, her whole thing was always being hungry. But I do know that I don't remember if someone random commented on a Bravo post or if it was another account, but somebody commented that word for word like a year ago, was like, this should be your tagline for next year. And like the comment gained a lot of traction. Like I don't remember where it was posted. Like she definitely saw it, like there's no coincidence that something was blowing up online, and as an influencer, like she's online. Right. So I think that kind of takes the originality down. I know that most of the time, like production will come up with the list or like help them shape it. So it's not always them, but to just pluck it right off of an Instagram comment feels like a little tacky.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like when Tamra stole the tagline that Dorinda came up with on some podcast. She, like, what was it? Something about being on pause or I came to play. Yeah. So, yeah, they don't always come up with it. But I still think that this kind of stands on its own. I agree with you, Dylan. This is probably about a B for me. I like it well enough. It could have been refined a bit more, like you said, but yeah, I think it's a B. Next, we've got Jessel's I'm not up and coming. I'm already there. Catherine, what do you think here?
I do like this one because that was like her big thing. And it was like she, in the moment when she said that, like she looked dumb. And it's like nice to see like when a housewife has like a little dumb moment that they can play on it later on. So I think I give it like a B plus. I do think it's a good one for her.
Yeah, it's very similar to Size in that way, and that like yes, it's referencing something she said in the first season. Yes, it's very simple and like just a straightforward little phrase without too much flourish to it. So it's I agree that it's nice that she's riffing on something dumb she said in the previous season. It's not like a super exciting wordplay. It's like just a very straightforward sentiment and a straightforward phrase, but that has its place too. So I'll give that like a B plus because that's what I give to Size, and I feel exactly the same way as I do about Size.
Yeah, I think that this is probably a B plus, which is a little bit higher than Size for me. I think that is probably about right. Ubah's is love looks good on me, but darling, what doesn't? Dylan, what are your thoughts here?
Okay, so once again, she's going with darling in her catchphrase, like she's fucking Mae West in the 1930s, and I love that. I think that's great. That's part of her personality. That like just using the word darling gives it like full letter grade higher. The same way I can't remember what it was last year. It was like a very simple phrase, but like was made a little more charming by her use of the word darling, and. It's a fun phrase. I like that there isn't really. I mean, I guess wearing clothes counts as a pun, but it's barely wordplay. But I like that. It's like it has both confidence and playfulness, which is what you're looking for. And it just matches her vibe too. It matches her energy, her playful. Slightly weird energy, or extremely weird. I don't know why I said slightly there. It's fucking Ubah. So this is like a minus. It's not like a memorably bizarre or creative one, but I like the energy behind it, so I'll give it A tier, but just A minus.
How about you, Catherine?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I like that. I like that she's kind of playing on the fact that like she knows she's like really beautiful, because I feel like during the season she'll compliment everyone and everyone will be like, well, look at you. And, you know, she does the more like humble, modest, like, oh, no, like, you know, we're all gorgeous. So it is nice to see her just be like, yeah, I'm hot. What of it?
I really like this one. This is definitely in A territory for me, I think. Like you said, it is like simple. Almost anyone could say this, but it is so distinctly her. Like her personality just comes through so much on the read, and I really like that. There is a little bit more wordplay this year than there was last year, and the fact that she's able to just kind of pour herself into something that is generic and it still like is distinctly her, I think that deserves credit. So this is an A for me for sure. Okay, and finally we've got Jenna Lyons. Not everyone can be Jenna fucking Lyons, but they can try. Catherine, what do you think?
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think Jenna Lyons has a foot to stand on to say that. Everyone I think it's a great tagline, and I think if if it was Lisa Rinna's in like season 7, you know, like I'm Lisa fucking Rinna, I'm Sonia fucking Morgan. Like I don't understand the Jenna hype, and she hasn't done anything. Like she doesn't have a moment, or like she doesn't have anything big yet to be able to say, I'm Jenna fucking Lyons. But overall, I do think it is a great tagline, and I would love it. Like, if somebody else had said it, I'd probably be, like, so gagged. So it's kind of a toss-up for me. So I want to give it an A, because it genuinely is great, but I don't think it's great for her. So I'm going to go with a B+.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I do think that it is a little bit ill-fitting for her. I do think that she is like the star of Real Housewives of New York right now. I thought last season she was definitely the star, the most compelling person to watch for me, at least. So I do think that she earned like having the confidence to say this, but that also doesn't match her personality. She comes across as like not very confident, and so this doesn't really fit her personality so much. This is still, I think it's an A for me. I do like it a lot. Dylan, what about you?
You know what? I think it matches the role that she plays in the show more so than it matches her personality, because people on the show are always referring to her by her full name, Jenna Lyons, which seems kind of deferential to the fact that she's the one person on the show who is kind of a celebrity, or at least micro celebrity, and has been for a long time. Before the show starts. So I think it references less the fact that she's an iconic Housewives personality, because I think you're right that she hasn't earned that yet, and more the fact that she is like more of a long-standing celebrity off camera, at least more than her castmates are. And we do always see these things in the show where, like we have in this episode, Brynn says something like, "Oh my God, Jenna Lyons has BO." This is like finding out God shits. Like people do tend to treat her that way in the show as like, oh, not just my buddy Jenna, but the fucking Jenna Lyons. So even if it doesn't really match her personality, it matches the like gravitas that other people give her in the show. So I feel this is kind of like her leaning into that role. And I think we see a bit of that in that episode, that she might be a little bit more willing to embrace the being kind of a celebrity figure this season than she did last season. Hopefully, I think that would be a fun development, because she showed a lot of humility and awkwardness in the previous season. So I think that works. Having said that, I think the basic sentiment of like, do you wish you were me? I don't fucking blame you. I'd be jealous of me too is like a very common sentiment in taglines. Like I think we've had like many versions of that. So I think the sentiment is like unoriginal. And the way it's framed doesn't have any wordplay, doesn't have anything unique about it other than using the word fucking, I guess. So it, I like what it maybe signals about what Jenna's approach is going to be this season. I don't think it's like an exciting or original phrase, which is all to say B-.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, let's dive into Real Housewives of New York. Catherine, can you give us a quick summary of what happened this episode?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes. So, quick summary. It starts off with that banger right at the end of filming, and they're doing like the cast photos and intros. So it shows that there's going to be some crazy drama coming up, and then it cuts right into like present day, like when filming started. Everything was fine. So I think that was like a good setup for like what's to come. It was basically just a catch up of, where we ended last season and where they are now. Everyone had their own small group things, started planting seeds of drama. Erin said this, Brynn did that, Jessel did this, and then it ends with them all coming together to go out with Brynn's brother, who's in town, and things get a little explosive there. Erin confronts Jessel, Jessel takes Erin's side, Jenna confronts Sai confronts Brynn. Everyone played a major role, I would say, in the first episode.
With the exception of maybe Ubah, I think. Ubah was a little absent. But
who just shows up at the dead end after everything's already happened.
Yeah, perfect timing. What do you think that the number one question that the audience is left with, Kat?
I think the number one question is what happens between Brynn and Ubah. Because if you've like rattled, every person is shook. And you see that in the flashbacks, you see that in the cast photo shoot. Something major has to happen. It's not just like a regular Housewives fight. Like, you said this, you do that. Something big has broken down in this group. And I think that's the number one question is what happened?
Yeah. Do you have any speculation as to what that might be?
I honestly have no idea of what it could be, because I feel like Ubah is so like head in the clouds. I feel like if, it was
just
like
she's
Brynn,
7 feet tall.
Well, yes. I think like if it was like Brynn versus Erin, you could be like, oh, like one of them made like a low down comment. And you could like kind of speculate like, oh, Erin would come from this angle and Brynn would come from this angle. But I genuinely don't know where Brynn and Ubah, like I just can't figure out where they would have a breakdown.
Yeah. Let's talk about the artistic presentation of this. I think that we are really like being fed right now because we've got both Salt Lake City and New York that are on. Both of those are produced by Shed Media, and they, I think, do the best work of visually telling a story out of all of the Housewives production companies. What did you identify here, Dylan, that stood out within the presentation of this?
I love the visuals of New York, and I'm so glad it's back. It's a very, very visually exciting series to me, and most of that is just the way that the frame really gets filled by just city shit, like just like doing walk-ups to a bar or a lunch spot. There's going to be so much in the background. There's going to be so much like life and so much like shit going on in the streets and storefronts and lights and cars and everything. The sense of context of you being really enmeshed within a place is such a visual contrast, I think, to the other Housewives shows where you often see like boulevards that don't seem to have that many people on them, where they just don't seem that populated. And the fact that they're in such a populated, busy, visually dynamic space is always apparent. From the start, when we have like Jessel and Pavitt going to a place in Chinatown, like that's like very visually dynamic. In the end, when they're at the bar and it's like a
skyline out the window.
Skyline out the window, exactly. The space is always full. It's very aesthetically full, and that just really contributes to this idea that we always feel enmeshed. We really feel like absorbed and really covered by this world. And that kind of busyness and that sense of life is something that's just really communicated by the visuals that I love so much of the show.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I think that the atmosphere in New York is so interesting because it really kind of almost brings you back to the original idea of like Housewives being this, this slice of life, like this average, what is happening almost. And because it feels like when we are watching anything going on the streets of New York, it is not even the most exciting thing that is happening on that block at that moment. Whereas when you're watching something like Orange County, wherever they are, you can see people in the background like are just watching what's happening on the cameras. No one in New York gives a shit because it's not the most exciting thing that is happening on the block at all. And I agree. I love the atmosphere. Catherine, is there anything that stood out to you in terms of the presentation here?
For the most part, I agree with like everything you both have said. One thing I really like about it is it feels like how it did with old Roni. I like how even though it's a whole new cast and they're kind of taking it a different direction, visually they didn't change it. So it still feels like the comfort of watching Real Housewives of New York and not like you're watching a brand new show.
Because they kept the main cast member New York City, baby.
Exactly.
I do think that there was like a little bit of a theme here, or I really liked the idea, the scene where we had Jenna going through her shoes and like was talking about what she's like going to give away and what she's clinging on to, where she's there with her partner's mother, and she gets into like talking about her divorce and like how like what she had to give up there and like going through that process. I just liked that we got the visual metaphor of her, going through her shoes and deciding what to give away while
editing her shoes, to use the word that she uses.
Editing, right? Yeah.
I do like you say though. I do like how her choice of words kind of underscores that idea of like sorting through her stuff while also sorting through her life and like making pointed creative choices. I thought that her word choice kind of underscores that idea that you're talking about of like sorting life, sorting closet. It was a great scene, and I do really love And I love that discussion, and I like when Racquel gets into it, and then we start learning about Racquel and Mel and stuff, and then we start to get like this window opening into this world of like premenopausal lesbian fashion designers and stuff. And their world seems awesome. Like, it seems really interesting. I wanted to like go through that window and go into like a whole spin-off series just about these women. Like, I just loved like you said, that this idea that we feel like we're in a real city where there's stories happening on every street corner. That kind of moment where you feel like you could just branch off into a whole other show really underscores that feeling of being immersed in a world. So that really hits for me. That works. I love that stuff.
Yeah, totally. How about a quote, Catherine? Was there a quote here that stood out to you?
I kind of liked, at the end of the episode when Sai kept repeating, "Not today, Satan, not today, Satan," because I just feel like that, even though it's so basic and so used, like, it's such a good insult, but then Brynn being in her confessional, like, "I am not Satan, I am Satan's fourth wife." I thought both of those together, I thought those were really good.
Yeah. My quote was also from Brynn. I love her saying, "I giggle and laugh all day. How am I causing havoc?" Like, it's like, oh, I'm just like gleefully causing havoc.
Yeah. I don't think those are mutually exclusive, actually.
Okay, let's talk about strategy here, because I do think that there was a lot of strategy going on. But I'm curious what you think, Catherine. What stood out to you from a strategic perspective?
I think from editing's perspective, not only starting with that beginning clip from, just showing there's going to be drama, but even showing just the individual conversations, and then Brynn and Jessel being with Jenna, and then Ubah and Rebecca and Erin, they're dropping seeds there, but then it's they get together and everyone keeps dropping seeds. I think strategically they're trying to they're subtly building up the drama, and you can kind of see where it's going to go, but it's subtle enough where you're oh, these two are going to hate each other this season. And in 3 episodes, it could be they're best friends forever and they've turned on somebody else. So I think they're doing a good job of not giving everything away right at the beginning, which I feel not just for New York, a lot of Housewives recently, they show you everything in the trailer and then you watch the season and you're okay, we knew this was all going to happen. So I think strategically they're building it, which is good. I like when they build it. I don't want to know what's happening yet.
Yeah, totally. I think that New York and Salt Lake City also do the best job of keeping things kind of under wraps. With Beverly Hills, you know what the season is going to be about as soon as you go in. But with Salt Lake City and New York, I feel there's still so many questions that we have. We don't know what is going to happen. They do a really good job of keeping it under wraps on. Dylan, what stood out to you from a strategic perspective?
I hinted at it before. I'm interested in what Jenna Lyons is doing. I feel and this is maybe too early to talk, but I feel she's coming into the season with a different perspective than the last season. I thought that she was very guarded last season, and we got some good moments because it felt when she revealed something about herself, it felt like we earned something as the audience, which was good TV. Yeah. But there was a lot of her personal life that she clearly was unwilling to speak about on camera. So she clearly was not totally comfortable with just revealing her life on camera. I feel we might be seeing that change this season because we see her, like you said, talking about her relationships openly right off the bat. I think we might be seeing her willing to play with the form a little bit more. When we see her talking with Sai, it feels less awkward defensive and more willing to play. She says something to Sai right off the bat when Sai starts getting into it. She says something like, "Oh, this feels a little early for you to do this, don't you think? But okay, let's go." It just feels she's thinking about the storylines that as they're going to appear on the finished show, maybe more than she was in season 1. So I'm interested to see if Jenna becomes more of a thoughtful, open, strategic player rather than somebody who's kind of reluctant to engage with the Forb as I think she was in the previous season. So that's something that I'm really looking for, because as people who watched our coverage of the previous season know, I loved Jenna in the previous season. I thought she was just a fascinating presence, partially in spite of and partially because of her seeming reluctance to engage with the Forb. And I feel like maybe that she's more willing to just dive headfirst in this year. So that's something that's really that I'm really going to have my eyes trained on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that she came to actually play the housewife game this year. What stuck out to me the most was we saw a lot of gameplay from Brynn. Like, she is really going after Erin's position, like specifically her position with Jenna, by relaying this story, taking a lot of creative liberties with how it's told. So we're seeing, like, she's got motivation to do it because of the comments and how she interpreted them on the Jeff Lewis podcast or a radio show or whatever. And she wants to, she wants revenge by creating a divide between Erin and Jenna. And so she goes after that. She goes in hard with Jenna. And then we see at the end a little bit of a reveal where Jenna's like, oh, actually, I told Erin that this is going around and it's going to come back. Like, the fact that Jenna was ready to not just be a passive, like, player in this game and actually use information in order to make, like, social moves, really excited me, because I think that, for one, that is the right move with that information, was to, give the heads up to Erin that this is going around, remove yourself out of, like, being the point of conflict and back into the position of power that she had going into that situation. So I think that was the smart way to play that information. And I was just so excited to see that she's actually, like, willing to play that game. Last season of Real Housewives of New York, I think, was a little light on the gameplay. I think that everyone was kind of, like, feeling out the dynamics, which was exciting in its own way, but people didn't really know how to use information. So I was also really excited to see Brynn so active, because I like her. I think she's a really, like, fun on-screen presence, and so to see that she's actually able and willing to make moves and stir shit up and, like, really, like, lean into the gameplay, it in a way that was, like, almost so overboard that it seemed almost campy. I really liked it. Like, she almost reminded me of how, like, Cameron on Real Housewives of Dallas used to, like, be a little bit over the top. Cameron was, like, a lot over the top, but there's shades of that, embellishment of what we think of when we think of, like, a Real Housewife within Brynn. I really like that, but she at the same time is able to retain this, like, emotional vulnerability that we see, and the fun side. I was really impressed with her this episode in terms of how she came across. Let's get into our highlights. Catherine, we'll start with you. What stood out to you? What were your highlights here?
One highlight was when Erin and her family were at the ice cream place or wherever, and the kids were like, the new house is too small, like, we should move. I just thought that was funny, because, like, even if it was just, I feel like, like a regular family moving from one apartment to another, if there's, like, 3 inches less, like, kids are going to notice that. They're going to be like, I don't have the same amount of room to play as I did. So I just thought that was funny. That was a highlight. I loved watching Jessel take the subway with Pavet, and they go and eat at, like, that random Asian restaurant, and he's having the time of his life, and she's just sitting there like, where am I? What are we doing? I thought that was really funny. It kind of Jessel kind of reminds me of Dorit, in the sense that they're both British, but also, like, they're both just like head in the clouds. Like, you have no idea what they're thinking. They, like, go to restaurants like this and act like, I've never been around this before. And it's like, you totally have been here before. I would say those are probably, like, my 2 main highlights. Oh, and then I did like the Jenna scene where she was cleaning out her closet, or like going through her shoes, because I feel like sometimes they stay away, like, producers and editors, from the wealth of these women. And that's, like, was a huge part of the show. in the early days. Like, yeah, the drama and the fighting is why we watch, but like the wealth is what makes it different from just like regular women fighting and going to lunch compared to like wealthy women, you know. It was nice to see like just the excess.
Yeah, for sure. Dylan, how about you?
I also enjoyed Jessel's discomfort, and I agree with like the Dorit comparison. I think that's something that's not going to play well in New York, and I think that Jessel doesn't quite realize that like I think in a kind of like an English environment, looking disconnected from your environment because you're wealthy is like seen as a positive. Like it's like a sign of class and wealth. I don't think that plays the same way in New York. Like I think like the sense that I get, not that I'm a New Yorker or an expert, but the sense that I get is that New Yorkers really actually put a premium on people like knowing how the city works and how to navigate the city and how to like find good spots and stuff. So I think Jessel being like, I don't know how a subway works. Why would you go to like a random Chinese restaurant just because people say that it has good food is like weirdly disconnected from like how you're supposed to interact with the city. And I think her cluelessness that she thinks might come off as being like a charming moniker of being classy just comes off as like stupidity and unwillingness to engage with the city that she lives in. That's just my read on it, but I think that's funny. Like it's a funny moment. Jessel comes off as so wishy-washy in this episode, and that's her best quality in terms of being watchable is because she's funny, because she's wishy-washy, I think. So I like that too. I also did really like the scene of Erin and Abe in this chaotic, candy-colored, loud ice cream shop full of kids because it looked awful. It just looked terrible. And that was another moment where like the environment, the way it's so crowded and full of life, was so present on camera, but in a way that felt like so chaotic. It really felt to me like this idea of like family life just like pushing in on you from all sides. Like it just felt like they're so trapped in this noisy, bright, obnoxious environment that was just so intensely communicated by the aesthetics of that scene that I really enjoyed that too, and how overwhelming it felt.
Yeah, this shell that they put up where they like are really controlled about the way that they want to come across, being like very composed, and you know their fight is even about how like Erin wants to be presented on camera. Like she's very focused on how her like outward presentation is, but there's all this inner turmoil within their relationship. That shell is being crushed by the inner turmoil plus the external like turbulence in that scene, and yeah, the pressure just like causes it to crack, and we see her like kind of, you know, foam at the mouth a little bit at the comment, this like little joke that Abe makes. Yeah, really fantastic scene.
Yeah, and really, I really need to know why Erin got pissed off that he was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny to look at trippy painting on mushrooms? And like what set her off about that? There's got to be something there. There's some story. Is she angry about his drug use, or is this? I guess there's a lot of hints that something's going to go south with their relationship in this season. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to get some real drama out of them. Also, one more highlight I just really need to call attention to is just near the end when the girls are all fighting in the bar. Love that we get a little cutaway to what the guys are doing in the meantime, and they're like, "Hey,
I loved that.
How long do you think you could hold your breath for?"
I love when the editors do that.
Yeah, I don't think I could last more than 10 minutes. Yeah, or more than 10 seconds. Yeah, that's what she said. Just like having like the most sophomoric dudes conversation. Like just the most stupid bullshit. So good.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of my highlights. Let's get into our stars. Catherine, who are your stars here?
This is a shock for me, but I would say one of my stars is Sai. I did not like Sai last season, like at all. I really enjoyed how she addressed how she came off on camera. Like most housewives and Bravolebs just are like, whatever, it wasn't that bad, keeps going. But she was like, I did not come off good. I've done reflection. I'm, working to change things. I like how she still got into all of the drama at the end of the episode, so she's not completely out of the game. I think Racquel for me was a star. I think she came in hot in the sense that like she just started talking about, you know, being married to a man and like coming out and her mom leaving. Like she just came out very open and honest right from the beginning, and I really appreciate that because I feel like in the new age of reality TV, people are so reserved, especially like a newer cast member who doesn't know like what it's going to be like. So I think I really appreciate that she just came in and was like, yep, here's like half my life story unfiltered.
Yeah, totally. Dylan, how about you?
Sai, I'm glad you brought it up. I love Sai in this episode. I'm totally sold. I'm a major Sai. I'm a psychopath. That's what we call ourselves. I'm a big Sai guy. Oppa Gangnam Style. I thought she was great. She was great. I did kind of like her in the previous season, but I like that she's the most like gloves off one. That she's the most raw. Like she doesn't keep her emotions under wraps. She doesn't seem able to. We saw a lot of that in the previous season, but it's like really all coming out here. I love how when most of these girls are all like, this minute there's the slightest bit of conflict, they're like, but you know, it's because I love you. I love you so much. And then and Sai, when she's talking about Jenna, and she's like, I heard you're saying I don't like you. And it's like, yeah, I don't like you. Like I said, it's like she's just like she'll just say it and be like, I don't like you, and we're gonna be friends anyways. Like that's like she doesn't put on these airs. She doesn't like she doesn't have this need to cover everything with like a warm blanket of fake affection, and she wouldn't be able to, I think, if she wanted to. And the fact that she's the most raw one, the one that has her emotions leading her the most, is great. I love this subplot that she went to therapy, and there's that great exchange with Jenna where Jenna's like, and I heard you started therapy, and Sai's like, fuck you, and then they both like each other more because of that. Like they both recognize like that that honesty and that like directness, and I think the conflict between Jenna and Sai is making them like each other more, and that's great. That's really fun. I like that we get that like ice bath moment with Jessel. That feels like a great contrast between all this stuff I've been talking about aesthetically, in terms of feeling like you're really in this world surrounded by other people and other storylines, and how it's like very chaotic, and you're always within the context of the world you're in. Sai talking about going to therapy while being in this very isolating situation where you're plunging into an ice bath in a room by yourself, which feels very much like marinating in a kind of intense self-awareness, feels like a great metaphor for like this attempt that she's trying to make to like know herself better. And that Jessel was willing to play along, because Jessel is willing to play along with anybody at any point, because she's completely wishy-washy and being like, oh, you seem like really like zen'd out Buddha, like calm, and she doesn't at all. Like Sai seems like nothing of those things. Yeah. She still seems like herself, and still seems like completely like intense and off the cuff and quick to anger. But the fact that like there's that storyline of her trying to know herself better while also not being able to stop being herself is very dynamic to me. She's a very dynamic, watchable character. So she's my first star, is what I'm saying. Sai is my first star. Second star, I would probably go with Jenna Lyons, even though she didn't bring a ton this episode, but she brought the context of her life and her friend group. I like that scene we're talking about. I like this window into this world, this other world, this like other show that we're just getting glimpses into of her gay fashion designer friends or whatever. And I thought that was just something that was really interesting to me. And third star, I almost wanted to give it to Jessel, because I find her wishy-washy, milquetoast, awkward persona weirdly compelling, but I've probably have to give it to Brynn instead, for all the reasons that you said, Craig. You made a good case for her being really active and involved in this episode, and yeah, she's good, needs a shout out too.
Yeah, Brynn is going to be my number one here. For all the reasons I mentioned. Yeah, I think that like her motivation for this conflict with Erin is really valid. At least like I think she perceives it to be valid. Whether or not Erin was trying to imply anything or whether Jeff Lewis was trying to imply anything, I think is to be determined. But like, her feelings regarding it are valid, and I think that makes her motivation valid, especially when last season we saw that she won her money in chess competitions. That's how she makes her money. That's canon, right? So yeah, she's number one for me. I think Sai also is number two. We've covered that extensively. I think brought a lot. I was leaning towards giving number three to Jessel, but I think I want to give it to Jenna just because she is trying to do something this season, trying to play the game, which is not something I was expecting. Not something that I even think she really needed to do. I think of all of the cast, she could have been the one that just comes and did what she did last season and not made any improvements and would still be bringing a lot to the screen. So to see her add dimension, I think that is worthy of being a star, in my opinion. Okay, let's keep on rolling, baby. We'll talk about Real Housewives of.
Before we do that, I just because we haven't yet, and this was, I thought, a really good episode. How great was the cold open, though? Like, how cool was that?
Oh, yeah.
To have the moment where they're all like alluding to some awful drama that will be revealed later happening during the shoot for like the title cards, and then to have that turn into the actual title cards of the show. That was sick. That was so awesome.
Yeah. Totally.
Just had to mention how much I love that.
Yeah.
I'm rolling, baby.
Before we get into Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, just want to take the opportunity to ask our audience to hit the subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube. Find us on your podcast platform of choice and leave a comment, do whatever it is that you need to do. That helps us out a ton. Let's get into the taglines for Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. They finally came out. Perfect timing. We have got Heather's is "Don't play me." I've got receipts, proof, and screenshots. Catherine, what do you think?
She's got to move on. I just think I think that she overplays it. I get why like the Bravo fandom likes it. Like everyone else plays into it, but like that has become like her personality. She's done it on every appearance. She does it whenever she can say it, she'll say it, and it's like. You got to move on.
I think Heather is the person that you could remove from this cast and lose nothing. Honestly, that was like an iconic line, but I really don't think she brings anything to this show at all whatsoever. So, the fact that she's retreading this is almost annoying to me. So I'm going to give this a C. I really love it. She's really trying to force the line too here. I don't like it. Dylan, what about you?
Okay, so unlike you, I actually really like Heather on the show. I think she's a huge part of the show. I'm a Heather fan. I love her.
Okay.
I love her navigating her intense goody kind of Tracy Flick Mormon following the rules energy with like who she wants to be in her current life. We've talked about a lot in the previous season. I think that she's like a really interesting character. I really like her. In terms of the tagline, it's a D. It sucks. It doesn't have a pun. It doesn't have a fun turn of phrase. It's just not. It's just referencing a thing with just a straightforward line. So it's just a bad tagline. But I'm very happy to have Heather around. I like her.
Okay, that's your opinion.
That's my opinion!
Okay. We have Meredith Marks with "I'm known for my tub, and this year I'm bathing in glory." Dylan, what are your thoughts here?
Didn't she do a bathtub one last season too? Or no?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, though. I don't know. I guess like a bathtub pun is kind of a fun thing to do. I'm bathing in glory is kind of a funny phrase. I think that the transition between the tub to the phrase bathing in glory is a little awkward, but it's a funny phrase. I'm bathing in glory. So I kind of like it, actually. I'll give it like an A-. The more I think about it, the more I find it funny. It's kind of weird. It's kind of unexpected. I like it.
It would be better if it was I'm bathing in the blood of my enemies, but yeah, glory is pretty good. Catherine, what do you think about this one?
I like it. Like, Meredith's whole shtick is her bathtub, so I think it's like good that she sticks with it. She's also the only housewife of like all time who could have multiple taglines about bathtubs, and it works, you know.
Yeah. I think that this is probably an A- for me. B+, A-. I like it. I think the tub thing is funny. I love how like sensitive she is about the tub, but also like it's trying to make a joke about it. I think the contrast there that like is Meredith. She's just like so reactive. I like it. So next we've got Bronwyn's, which is the only muted thing you'll find in my wardrobe is my black card. Catherine, what do you think about this one?
I like that one because, I mean, she's new, so she doesn't have a ton to go off. But even, like, right away, that first episode, when she wore that, like, yellow cropped cheetah outfit, she just came off with a bang, and it obviously isn't going to slow down. So I do like that.
She wore that to, like, a cafe or something, too, which was hilarious.
Yeah, like, something so casual.
Yeah.
Even in Wednesday's episode, like, she showed up to the airport, and she pulls out, like, a jacket, and it's just, like, a bunch of different colors and fur, like all this stuff. So I think that's good. And then since it is her first season, like playing it back to her black card, I feel like it's just like a good connection. Because there's nothing else.
The second best jacket on this episode, by the way. The first being Whitney's jacket that she wore to the basketball game.
Yeah, it's giving
every team on it.
Yeah,
it's giving. I hope they all have fun. You know.
Yeah. Whitney's just there, like, yeah, let's go, National Basketball Association.
It reminded me. I don't know if you've seen this. Like, there's an old like sketch on YouTube from Kyle Mooney before he was on SNL, where he's wearing a jacket that just says sports and has like every like type of sports equipment that you could have on it. Really good. It reminded me a lot of that. Dylan, what do you think about this one?
I like it. It's very classic. It's not like a surprising or weird pun, but it's like it's a good classic, straightforward pun. It references the most obvious thing about Bronwyn, which is that she dresses like an insane clown. And to transition from that to black card is like just like a classic kind of move. So it works. It's like there's nothing like out of left field or shocking about it, but it's like a good, classic, solid tagline, I think. So it's like I'll give it a B+, let's say.
Yeah, I like this one too. I think that B+ is bang on. She didn't have a lot to go off being a new housewife, and I think she made it work. I like it. Next we've got You May Have Been in a Sorority, but I'm Greek for life, baby, which is obviously Mary, right?
Yeah. I don't think any of these people have any special attachment to the country of Greece, so it's kind of confusing that one of them would use that.
Dylan, what do you think?
I think Angie needs a second thing. I think she needs
sunglasses.
Yeah. Does Angie just have like a prop guy on call or what? Like, how is she just like getting? Because she said she had those like glasses specially made for her, like her scroll. She's just like I think she's got like a full-time prop guy in house. So I don't know. It's awkward. Like, it's an awkward way to get the word Greek in there, I think. Like, unless sorority is referencing something else in another character, it just seems like you just chose that as a way to get the word Greek into your tagline. I think it's just like an awkward shoehorning. It's just like I'll give it a C+.
Whoa. Okay, this is like an A+ for me because
What?
it's so awkwardly
A+?
like forcing in her thing. Yeah, this
Okay,
is.
yeah.
I love this one.
Yeah.
I really love how like excited she is about this tagline and the like by adding baby at the end, like just like
Yeah, like, I killed
it. like when she mentions Greece, that like it's like her scoring a goal. So it's like Greek for life, baby. I don't know. I just really love this. I think that Angie is maybe my favorite housewife on this cast, just because
she
she
is
is
really
like
funny.
so. Yeah, it's so surreal. I love it.
You know,
what about you,
when she's at the
Catherine? What do you
grocery
think?
store, she's taking like pots of Greek yogurt and taking selfies with them. And
She's going up to all the other like customers being like, my family made this. Like, I'm from there.
Just talking to the checkout girls, you won't believe this.
Catherine, what do you think about this one?
So I'm going to be totally honest. I don't really watch Salt Lake City often. I watched this episode so I could discuss it. So I didn't understand the sorority. Like, does the sorority come up because she's Greek, or does it relate to something?
No, I think it's just her trying to like force the word Greek into the tagline.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because it doesn't relate to anything other than her being Greek, which I get is like her whole shtick. But like, you know, like even like New York's, we were like, at least like some of them, if we didn't like them, it related back to last season, you know? I don't know. I just feel like being Greek can't be her only thing. And she's center snowflake, but she's center snowflake, which means like, she does well this season. So there had to have been something from this season besides being Greek that she could have used or that she could have used and somehow brought up being Greek. You know, like I think that just like it should have incorporated something more to the show. But I mean, I do kind of like it.
I think like with Angie, she is so like in your face about the Greek thing or her sunglasses that it almost overshadows the fact that I think she does have like a really well-rounded way about her as a housewife, because I do think that we see her like engage emotionally with the show. We see her play information. You know, she loves like a prop and a moment. She's really good at forcing that. We see it with like the scroll this season, or when she brought her own made her own t-shirt to match the rest of the girls on that trip that she invited herself along to. I think like she brings so much here. I think she's definitely deserving of the center snowflake, and the fact that she's like so silly about the like the Greek stuff and the sunglasses, and you know there's a playful self-awareness that is reading as lack of awareness, and I like it.
I think that her tagline should have been something about the sunglasses and not necessarily being Greek.
Yeah.
And if she could have combined them, then like that's great. But like the even when she was getting ready for Milwaukee, like, yeah, they had the Greek flag, but they were still the big sunglasses. Like that's like her thing. I think she definitely could have done something with that. I think it would have fit a little better. Because, like, she's still going to be Greek, even if she doesn't say it out loud. But, yeah, I mean, it works for her, but I think she could have done something a little different.
Okay, so next we've got Whitney. On my healing journey, I always travel first class. Catherine, what do you think here?
I think it's good. I think it's classic. Brings up, you know, kind of the wealth aspect. It also fits well because she took them all in a private jet to Milwaukee. I guess it works for her, too, because she's always on her healing journey, so, like, plays back into something. Mm-hmm. Whitney's healing journey to her is what Greek is to Angie. Like, they're both very in it.
Dylan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I basically agree with that assessment. It checks a couple of boxes and things about her healing journey. The fact that we got them on her PJ this episode too. So it's somewhat personalized. It feels kind of classic. It's a bit of a fun reversal. Nothing too exciting or weird about it, but it's a solid B+ one.
I think that this is a B+ for me. You know, I think that it could have been better, but this isn't bad. It's middle of the pack. Next, God is my shepherd. You all look like sheep. Dylan, what do you think here?
This was Mary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's it's good. It's good. I like ones that are less self-promoting and more everyone else insulting. So I do like just calling everyone sheep. It's very in keeping with Mary's persona of being extremely negative and critical, which is what she brings to the show. That's what we love from her. And I think it's funny. I think I definitely laughed out loud when she said, "You all look like sheep." So this is a down the middle A for me.
Yeah. How about you, Catherine?
If anyone else said something like this, I'd be like, what is wrong with them and what is wrong with production for allowing it? But Mary saying it, I'm like, yes, this would and should be her tagline. I just think it's so funny. I think it just works so well for her too, because she's always telling she just says anything to the other women. Like if they're being dumb, she's not afraid to be like, you're being dumb. Like stop following them, stop doing this. So Mary being like, basically like, I'm my own person and you all just do what, like follow each other. Like I just think that's so, like it's so good and so on brand for her.
Yeah, I really like this one too. I think that it's going to be an A from me. It doesn't quite meet the level of her best tagline, which is one of the best. If you come for me, I will send Jesus after you is maybe the best tagline in Housewife history. So, but this one is really good. It's going to be an A. Okay, finally we've got Lisa Barlow. Tequila is my livelihood and my lifestyle is always top shelf. Dylan?
I don't know. It's mediocre. It's transitioning from the personal brand to a somewhat related bit of wordplay. It works, but it barely works for me. It's like I'd give it like a C+. It's not doing much for me.
Yeah,
I agree. It's safe. It's classic. I just think, what are we on, season 5? Season 6, like we're far enough along with Lisa Barlow where I feel like she could give more besides this like generic branded statement.
Right.
Yeah. It almost feels like it's just trying to remind you that she has a tequila brand. Like I feel like Lisa Barlow is a really great housewife. There's, like you said, there's so much more that she could have given us, and this is just like, oh, reminder, you can get Vita tequila. I don't like this one. It falls flat for me. It's a C. Okay, let's dive into Salt Lake City. Catherine, do you want to give us a summary of what happened on this episode?
Yes, so the ladies went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the middle of February, which I'm originally from Wisconsin. I don't suggest going in the middle of February. They get there, there's a little drama beforehand, kind of like with New York, like the small groups planting seeds with everyone. Half go to the Potawatomi Bingo Casino to gamble, half go to the Bobblehead Museum and do a scavenger hunt. And then they all come back together for the Bucks game, where some drama ensues with Brittany and her boyfriend and between Bronwyn and Lisa and Heather. I think like the Bucks game was good because everyone was involved in some way. Well, almost everyone was involved in some way. And I would say that is my short recap of this episode.
You know who wasn't involved? Giannis. He was like, right? They're all like, oh, we're going to see the Greek freak. And Angie's like, there's got to be 2 Greek freaks. And he did not seem to want to play ball because instead they send out Damian Lillard to greet with them.
I was going to say, I loved really the whole thing. Yeah, it was about Giannis, and they just got him shooting shots. Like, he didn't even look at them when they walked in. He didn't look at the scope. Like, he did not acknowledge them at all.
It really felt like they planned to have Giannis meet everyone, and then when they showed up and they asked him, he was like, nah. And maybe Damian will do it.
What do you think the number one question that the audience was left with at the end of this episode?
I don't know, to be honest. Maybe something with like how Lisa and Bronwyn are going to move forward. I feel like there was drama and it kind of ended on a drama note. But I feel like things were pretty well covered in this episode. So yeah, maybe that. Or like what's going to happen with Brittany and her boyfriend. Because they kind of ended like Angie spilled the beans that he was messaging the brow girl, and then it kind of showed her with Meredith in the bathroom, but they then like left her there and went on to Bronwyn with Lisa and Heather.
Yeah, I think that it is like interesting to think about what's going to happen with Bronwyn and Lisa. It feels like a lot of like new housewives that have been brought in lately under the pretense of being friends with someone have ended up having conflict with that friend. Like we saw that with like Jen and Tamra is one example, and then we're seeing that with like Katie and Gina on Real Housewives of Orange County. And so the fact that there's kind of like a mismatch in the kayfabe that they're using in order to bring these housewives on is interesting, because that adds like an element of question to the conflict. Like, how good are they a friend? Like, what do they owe each other as friends in this context? And just adds an element of intrigue for me there.
Yeah, totally.
How about the presentation on this episode? Dylan, what stood out to you?
I mean, I definitely love the setting of being in the private box for the game. It's just like it's an interesting setting to have everybody like forcibly crowded around, where there's like a spectacle happening behind them. I like that. It also really like underlines the whole idea of like who's in, who's out. It's like the private suite is very like exclusivity versus inclusivity coded, which really plays into what you're saying, Craig, about like the precarious position that Bronwyn is in as like a newcomer who like has to be coded as somebody's friend, whether she's really their friend or not. I think that really the fact that she's in that suite kind of underlines that that position that she's in, which is one of the things that was giving this episode dynamism to me too, is like considering Bronwyn's position, especially because Bronwyn was like very, very active, right? Like she was doing a lot. She was engaging with everybody. But you just know that as a newcomer, she doesn't have that strong footing, of course, because like nobody really has any reason to take her side yet. So it's got to be very precarious, but she's still very willing to roll up her absurd, ridiculous sleeves and get some stuff done. So kudos to her. Otherwise, visually, I like that they're in Milwaukee. I just like that it's a different city. It made me think like, why is there no Midwest Housewives show? That's like a whole other world of aesthetics that we're missing out. Like where's the midwives? The Midwest Housewives, the midwives. Where are the midwives? It's always nice to be in another city, and I thought the aesthetics in Milwaukee were funny. The depressing casino was funny. The bobblehead museum, and a huge hat tip to whatever editor decided to include like a full 20 seconds of Mary and a bellhop awkwardly trying to get their luggage through the door of the hotel. Like there's no reason to include that scene other than it's just funny to let that scene linger, and it's just funny for us to just see how long it's going to take them to get the suitcases through the door in, like you said, February in Milwaukee when people just want to be inside. So just being in a different setting is always fun.
Yeah, totally. I love that they included that moment. It just like really broke up the pacing of the show. It like stands out so much. It was really amazing. I think that you touched upon the last scene that we got in the private suite at the arena. It stood out to me because I just loved how this was kind of the scene that tied up kind of the first like quarter of the season or whatever's worth of storylines. They all kind of came to head, and to have that literally happen in an arena, I just thought that was like a nice little visual communication or coincidence. I really enjoyed that as a setting there. I also thought that there was a really kind of a sub theme about independence, like child's independence, where we saw, Lisa is struggling with, Jack looking for more independence, and or her urge or her instinct to go down to Colombia and help solve the problem that Jack has with his health, really struggling with that. And we got that contrasted with like Mary and her son, just like, calling Mary to ask for $60 on Cash App because he's like not independent at all. I just really like the contrast there and how that was kind of played off each other. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Let's get into quotes. Catherine, what was your quote that stood out to you here?
I'm trying to think. I forgot to write down quotes. I told myself, don't forget the quotes, and then totally forgot them. Wasn't necessarily a quote, but I was, what did Mary say when they were doing the Golden Girls thing? Oh, like something about having menstrual cycles. They were doing the Golden Girls, like, oh, you're this one, you're this one, at the Bobblehead Museum. She said something. I meant to write it down, but I was like getting ready for work, and it just like caught me so off guard. That, and then also I did not like this quote, but it definitely stuck out to me when she said, like, when Mary said she doesn't use public bathrooms, so she just wears a super tampon to hold it. I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I had questions. I mean, I don't have that anatomy, but I asked my wife if that worked, and she said no, absolutely not.
It's because it's a completely like different track. So like she said that, I literally like stopped in my tracks for a moment. I was like, wait, what? And then not only did she like double down on it, but she like explained it in her confessional, and I was like literally only Mary could get away with saying something like that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's talk strategy. Dylan, anything stand out to you in terms of strategy from this episode?
I referenced it before, but I'm really interested in what Bronwyn's doing. She's very active. I like that she gets a bit of information from Lisa and starts wondering about how she's going to use this. How she's going to start employing this. I think it like I referenced before, she has a hard time in the private suite because she doesn't really have that firm footing of somebody with long-standing relationships. But she's just like, she's so ready to weaponize the information that she has, and is so seemingly eager to figure out how it works, like how you can turn who against who, that even if it doesn't really work out great for her in that moment, I think she's like really feeling the ropes. She's really like, testing for weaknesses in the electric fence. She like, I feel like she's very engaged, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's something that's very promising to me. I thought this is a very promising start for her. And I think she's really eager to get the strategy going, even if she doesn't really necessarily have specific strategic decisions that work out great. You can tell that she's trying to figure things out, I think. And I like that.
I actually think that she did have a strategic decision that was like really thoughtful, and it seemed like fifth season housewife type play. I think that this is a really strong decision was when she leaked that Lisa was like talking shit, but didn't say what. I think that is like really smart to kind of trickle out that information to Angie that Lisa has been talking shit, but not in a way where it can directly like come back to her saying, like repeating something that Lisa said. I feel like she avoided a newbie housewife trap in like communicating and just repeating what Lisa said, and just kind of like hinting in a way that is not necessarily going to get her in too much trouble. It seemed like a very smart play. So I agree. I think Bronwyn is having a fantastic start here. She's giving a lot of nuance to, like, she's bringing a lot of nuance to the table, both in like operating strategically. I think she's like really engaging to watch on camera, the way that she's just like carries herself. I think that her taking big like fashion swings is something that Salt Lake City really desperately needed. I think it really elevates the show. So I think she's a great addition to this cast. Catherine, anything stand out to you in terms of strategy?
I agree with like what you guys said about Bronwyn. I liked at the end how Heather and Lisa were so gagged when she was like, well, how about you guys saying things too? Like you said, like she didn't fall into the trap of just repeating it, but like she threw it out there. So it was like enough to get them like rattled, and not enough like for them to be able to like flip it back on her.
Yeah, totally. Let's get into our highlights. Catherine, what were your highlights from this?
The bobblehead museum, it was just so incredibly like random. We've never seen anything like it, and I don't think like any other franchises would do something like that, so I did enjoy that. For me, a highlight was Potawatomi Bingo and Casino. I grew up an hour north of Milwaukee, and they had radio commercials that just played all the time. Like, my brother and I, to this day, we've been out of Wisconsin for 11 years. Like, we still joke about those commercials. So just like seeing them there. It's also funny when you drive down to Milwaukee because like it's technically a city, but it's not like a big city. So like you have downtown that has like the bigger buildings and more of the congestion. Otherwise, it's smaller buildings and spread out. So when you're driving into Milwaukee, like you could kind of see it in the episode when they showed the outside. It's just this huge casino building. It's like nothing around it. So like just seeing that too, like that was just funny. Reminded me of like going to Milwaukee when I was a kid.
Dylan, how about you? What are your highlights?
Yeah, I agree. As I've already said, that I love the Bobblehead Museum and the casino just as different weird settings. I definitely had the thought when they're going to Milwaukee to like, as a lot of people I think my age would, to be like, oh, got to make a Milwaukee joke referencing Wayne's World, and then thought like, no, that would be that would be like so like elder millennial, like nobody makes Wayne's World references anymore. Like that would be like a pretty cringe thing to do. So of course Heather is the one who charges through that door. So that's on brand for her, and I like that.
Yeah, I think maybe the highlight that I have that we haven't covered is the fact that Mary just kind of drops the fact that her dad saw Jeffrey Dahmer get arrested.
Yeah, I was thinking like, of course, like only Mary would be able to have that connection.
Yeah. Just mention, oh yeah, he smelt the bodies. Like,
yeah, like what a weird thing to say. Like most people would be like, yeah, my dad lived in the area. Like, you could tell something was going on, but you weren't totally sure. And then she was just like, yeah, like, my dad smelled the bodies, but he didn't know, obviously, they were bodies.
And then I think he was just being nosy.
Yeah.
So weird.
Okay, let's talk stars. Catherine, who are your stars?
Bronwyn, I think she really handled herself well. She didn't fall into the traps, even though you could see she was getting upset. She was like involved in all the aspects, so I appreciated her. And then Angie, she, was very considerate about telling Brittany about the DMs. I loved how she went to a Bucks game and she wore white and blue for Greece, even though their colors are purple and green. She was, even though she wasn't really in the drama, she still had like a big presence in the show. And I think that's important too, even when you're not like the starring character, just making sure that people, like you're still part of the ensemble. So I would say those are probably my 2 stars.
Yeah, I think also some credit to Angie not really knowing the way to play the information that she had about Brittany's like boyfriend being in the DMs and just like clumsily just dropping it right after a FaceTime and like talking about it like directly behind Brittany while she's FaceTiming with her boyfriend. Just like it was really clumsy, but I feel like she got it to Brittany at an appropriate or a relatively appropriate time frame. Like there wasn't going to be a better like time to do that after it was given to her. Like it was a hot potato. She needed to get rid of it and deal with it in the right way. And it was a bit clumsy, but I thought it was effective. It came across as though she was trying to let her know as quickly as possible. And I think Angie is maybe not the best person at like handling information in a way that is super strategic, but she gets the job done. So I like it. Dylan, what are your stars?
First star, Bronwyn. I'm glad that we all seem to be kind of on the same page when it comes to Bronwyn. She's bringing a lot of eagerness to play the game. She's really bringing that energy, that spirit. She's there to fight, to turn people against each other, to stand up for herself. It's off to a great start, great addition to the show. Second star, I'm going to go with Angie. Craig, I agree with everything you said when we're doing taglines. We kind of got into Angie there. As much as I love to make fun of her for being one note and dorky, you're absolutely right. She brings a lot of energy, a lot of fun. Her wacky presence and willingness to engage is very fun. Like, she's just an exciting presence on screen. She's dorky. She's got props. She's weird, and I like what she brings. She's just a lot of she's a lot of energy. She's great. So yeah. I'll give Angie a second star, and third star I'm probably gonna have to give it to Whitney, because she was a fulcrum for a lot of what was happening. She was doing a lot there too.
Yeah, I think that those are pretty good picks. I would agree. Angie is going to be in my top 3. I think number 1, Bronwyn. Number 2, Angie. And then I want to give number 3 to Mary, just because she is bringing something that no other housewife can. And we got a lot of weirdness here. She seems like open to more this season than she has in the past. I think like a criticism of Mary during her first run was that she was like very closed off. She wasn't really playing the game. She wasn't really like filming with anyone. And we saw a lot of growth last season, and now she's like a full-time housewife. Seems like she's willing to play. She's made things up with Whitney, and she's still bringing the weird. So yeah, I really enjoying that. Also, one other highlight that we got a little tease of that I'm really looking forward to. We're going to see curling. I am so excited. I don't know if that is going to be on this Milwaukee trip. I kind of assumed that Salt Lake City would also have a bit of a curling culture, but maybe not. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how that gets treated, because I don't think we've seen curling on Housewives. At least I would remember it if I had seen it on Housewives.
That's going to be a huge, exciting moment for everybody who's a huge fan of both Housewives and curling. So congratulations to the only person in the world that describes the host of the show. I don't know what strings you pulled to make this happen, Craig, but I'm sure that you're responsible for this somehow.
Yeah, we're gonna do like a 2-hour special on that episode. We're gonna cover the game. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Catherine. It was a blast having you on. Do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram and Threads. Well, I'm like sort of on Threads, both under the handle @BravoEnthusiast. That's it. I don't do anything else. I don't tweet or podcast. But if you follow me, I just ask you like my posts, because I've got a lot of followers recently, but not a lot of likes on my content.
Awesome. And Dylan, want to let people know where they can find you?
Since we are now in spooky season, I think I'm going to have to plug my old podcast, which was a show about horror movies. Love horror movies. If you're interested in horror movies and want to find some interesting ones to watch during the month of October, the show is called Mind Over Splatter. There's 3 seasons you can find wherever you're listening to this, probably.
Awesome. I'm Craig Midwinter. I guess, if you're Brynn and you're listening to this, add me on chess.com. I am willing to take you on. Craig J. Midwinter on chess.com. Any of our listeners want to add me. I'm actually really terrible, but I'm trying to learn. I would love someone to play with. But you can find Bravo Outsider on Instagram and TikTok at Bravo Outsider. We're at bravooutsider.com. You can find us on YouTube, subscribe, do the usual stuff that we ask you to. Until next week, keep on wifing.